Okay, for the past few weeks, we've been in this series called 7, and we've been going through the 7 checkpoints. And the 7 checkpoints are 7 foundational principles that, if followed, they will help guide your life to a destination that you desire for your life. So far, we've talked about authentic faith and spiritual disciplines. Tonight, what we're going to talk about is probably the most controversial topic that we've talked about so far, and at the same time, it's the topic that we feel the most pressure from in life. And that pressure is sexual pressure. So here's what's funny. When I started putting together this talk, I was trying to write it in a way that didn't come off, like sound like a parent or like I was talking down to you. However, after trying, I decided I'd come up with a new plan. I'm just going to be honest. So here goes. I'm going to tell you the truth about the sexual pressure that you're feeling in your life. And what I'm going to say is going to tempt you to write me off as just some other dude that doesn't understand how the world works. The truth is, 8 years ago I was in high school. It's not that long ago. 3 years ago I was in college. For the past 7.5 years, I've been in a relationship with the same girl. The past 2 years of that were marriage, but 5 years before we got married, that was a long distance relationship. I know sexual pressure. Since I know sexual pressure, let me tell you this, from my heart, whether you're a girl or a guy, whether you're a 6th grader, a senior, a college student, or an adult, whether you're single or you're married, purity paves the pathway to intimacy. It's just true. Purity paves the pathway to intimacy. If you want intimacy in your marriage someday, purity is the road that will get you there. And if you don't believe me, there are tons and tons of people's stories that will prove my point. Now, here's what I know. When it's boiled down like that, when it's boiled down to the foundation, the truth of that statement's pretty clear. The problem is when the pressure gets so heavy, we tend to let the weight of that pressure outweigh the truth of that statement. So I want to help you figure out how to keep the statement clear in your mind. 1 Thessalonians 4:3 says, "For this is the will of God, your sanctification, that you abstain from sexual immorality." So that begs the question, what is sexual immorality? Let me ask it to you in a more familiar way. How far is too far? Sound familiar now? So since we're being honest, let me tell you this. The sexual pressure that you feel primarily comes from this question. The sexual pressure that you feel in your life isn't primarily from your hormones or from your boyfriend or from your girlfriend or really even from culture. The sexual pressure you feel primarily comes from this question: how far is too far? So let me explain. That question is a subtle way of saying, okay, God, if this is sin, that means everything up to it is not sin, right? So what's the line? Where does it become sin? See, when you say it like that, it reveals the problem. The problem is I want to know what God will tolerate from me, not what God wants for me. So we create sexual gray areas. This is okay and this is too far. What I want to do is to challenge you to have a mindset change. I want to challenge you to quit asking how far is too far and start asking something else instead. Instead of trying to figure out what God will tolerate, lock on to what God wants for you. The verse that we read said that God's will is your sanctification. Sanctification is a big word for becoming like Jesus, pure and holy. And let me tell you this, if you start asking that question, it will lead you to a level of intimacy that you can only imagine with God and with your spouse. The better question is really this. I heard a speaker one time when I was a sophomore in high school, and he taught on this very subject, and he said something very, very similar. But he asked another question, and it rocked my world. He said, instead of asking how far is too far, ask, what would I be okay with my wife or husband having done with another person? And see, that rocked me, just honestly, because my standard of purity for my future wife was way higher than my standard of purity for me at the time. See, for me, I was okay with making out with girls or doing whatever, but for my wife to have done things like that, I was not okay with it. Now, that's a hard mindset to change, but when we change that mindset from what God will tolerate from us, what it's okay to do, and what does God want from me, we will truly understand and keep that statement in the forefront that purity paves the pathway to intimacy.